The golden sun hung low over the vast farmland as Jacob, a hard-working farmer, stood at the edge of his dried-out field. His calloused hands gripped a handful of soil, watching as the dry dust crumbled between his fingers. The rain had not come for months, and his crops, his only source of livelihood, were dying. His debts were piling up, and the bank had given him one last warning. If he couldn't make the next payment, he would lose the land his family had farmed for generations. Jacob had tried everything, praying for rain, working from dawn to dusk, borrowing money, but nothing seemed to work. He felt defeated, as if all his efforts were meaningless. As he sat on the wooden fence, staring at the barren fields, an old man with silver hair and a warm smile approached. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, his voice calm and steady. Jacob sighed and nodded. "It's a free land, but it won't be mine for long." The old man sat beside him, adjusting his worn-out hat. "You look like a man carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders." Jacob let out a bitter laugh. "More like the weight of my own failures. Everything I worked for is slipping away." The old man nodded knowingly. "Let me tell you a story. Maybe it will help." Many years ago, the old man began, there was a farmer named Samuel. He lived in a small village and depended on his land to feed his family. One year, a terrible drought struck. Much like this one, his crops withered, his animals grew weak, and hunger crept into his home. The villagers told him to give up, sell his land, and find another way to survive. But Samuel refused to lose hope. Instead of dwelling on what he couldn't control, he focused on what he could. He dug deeper wells, learned about water conservation, and experimented with crops that required less water. Every morning, while others complained about the dry fields, Samuel worked tirelessly to find a solution. Jacob listened intently, drawn into the story. The old man continued. Years passed, and Samuel's patience and hard work paid off. His new farming techniques helped his crops survive even in the harshest conditions. The villagers, once doubtful, now came to him for advice. Soon, he became one of the most successful farmers in the region, not because he never failed, but because he never gave up. Jacob sat in silence, absorbing the story. The old man's words echoed in his mind. He had been so focused on what he had lost that he had forgotten what resilience truly meant. "You see," the old man continued, "life will knock you down, the weather will change, markets will shift, and people will doubt you. But hope is not just blind faith. It is the belief that as long as you keep going, something good will come." Samuel could have given up at any point, but he didn't, and neither should you. Tears welled up in Jacob's eyes. "But what if I fail again?" The old man chuckled. "Then you learn. Then you try again." Failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of it. Every great person in history has faced moments like yours, but they chose to keep moving forward. Jacob took a deep breath. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of something he thought he had lost: hope. He turned to thank the old man, but the bench was empty. The old man had disappeared into the distance, leaving only his words behind. With renewed determination, Jacob wiped his face and stood up. He would not let his farm go without a fight. He researched modern irrigation techniques, applied for government aid, and reached out to fellow farmers for support. He planted drought-resistant crops and built a small water harvesting system. Months passed, and though the challenges remained, Jacob's efforts began to bear fruit. Literally, his fields started to show signs of life again. Soon, the once dying farm became a model of resilience, and other struggling farmers came to him for advice. The same land that had nearly been taken from him was now thriving. Looking back, Jacob realized that his darkest days had not been the end of his story. They had been the beginning of something greater. The lesson he had learned was priceless. Hope is not just about waiting for a better future. It is about creating one. To anyone watching this, remember, failure is not the end, but a lesson. Every setback teaches you something valuable. Hope is a choice. Even in the darkest moments, you can choose to believe that better days are ahead. Keep moving forward. The only way to truly fail is to stop trying. Your struggles are part of your story. One day, you'll look back and see that every hardship led you to where you were meant to be. No matter how hard life gets, don't lose hope. Your breakthrough might be just around the corner.